It's Q1 of 2024, and what better time to improve your marketing planning process? So the problem most people have with this planning is that it's either too short, meaning you grab a template from somewhere or use AI to generate something quickly in 10 minutes that has no value. Or it's too long, meaning you start reading reports, you do SWOT analysis and who knows what else, and you spend weeks and end up with no result. What I'm going to suggest is a different process where you actually approach it in a scientific way, meaning you have an educated idea or hypothesis at the beginning of the quarter and you use the quarter to test it out, and this way you improve over time and you gain real knowledge. So let's get started with this 5-step process that I have for you. So before you do anything, you have to find out what is the company goal that the company is trying to achieve. And I have to tell you, it's not always about increasing revenue. I mean, it is, but there are different goals you can use to make that happen. So take Hilton's 10-minute TikTok ad, which was Hilton's attempt to create a different kind of ad that targets younger TikTok users. The company goal here was to increase awareness for a specific demographic. And only when they had this idea could they create this crazy concept, a 10-minute ad where you do a completely opposite take on what we think of hotel commercials. So if you don't start with a company goal, it's actually impossible to know which direction is right. The next step is to find a valuable insight. So this is where a lot of marketers get confused. But I would suggest not to go immediately to external sources. So instead of reading endless McKinsey reports or listening to marketing podcasts or reading those marketing trends for 2024, instead of doing that, which is tapping into information everyone has, you'd be surprised how much knowledge and information you can tap from your own sources. So I encourage you to look at emails with clients and testimonials, reviews, analytics data. Paid campaigns can tell you a lot. This work can actually be fun, but you have to dedicate some time to it. It's kind of like being an investigator or detective. If we're talking about insights, I really love what McDonald's did. This is a campaign from back in 2016, and they noticed there was a negative sentiment around McDonald's and health, and they created a whole campaign that turned into a worldwide campaign around rebuilding the trust that they actually care and that they're honest in improving. They even owned up to some of their faults. So they took questions from their community like, why doesn't the burger look like the ad? Or do you use 100% beef? And they answered them honestly. And this couldn't have happened if they weren't really focused on what insight they got about the brand sentiment that was problematic. And using internal information doesn't mean you can't use external information and trends. So Coca-Cola were masters at that. This year, they were super fast to react to the AI revolution by launching a huge all-encompassing campaign called Create Real Magic. And they created an actual platform where you can edit Coke-related artwork using AI, and they invited artists to use it. And this was based on an insight that something was happening, and they wanted to tap into this AI revolution and connect their brand to it. I also love this campaign by Not on the High Street. And they're an e-commerce brand, and their insight was that there was a problem in the eyes of the consumers around waste of gifts. So they created this guide of the Don't Gift Guide, which is a very uncommon thing to do. And you had here the most misgifted items. So very interesting campaign that is based on this insight that their shoppers care about waste. So look for those insights in your own product or service. Okay, so now that we have the insight, we can form our hypothesis. And translating it into a hypothesis means that you can actually test it out. You phrase it in a way that you can test it out throughout the quarter. And the example I'll give is from the company I work at, the AI writing assistant Wordtune. So this insight came from an article that we made called 8 Proven Ways to Humanize AI Text. So we created this article. It was very successful. We also heard from a lot of customers that prefer our tool because it produces more human text than competitors. So I took this and formed this hypothesis. Content creators are looking for AI tools to produce content that is not just accurate, but sounds like a human wrote it. This is the initial insight and the hypothesis. If we focus on the superior human-like capabilities of our AI tool, we will see a measurable insight in user adoption. So notice that I also translate it into a business metric. Of course, once I have the hypothesis, I need to again make sure it relates to our company goal, and I can go on and expand it to be more elaborate. For a typical plan, you probably need between 1 and 3 different hypotheses per quarter, and deciding on this really depends on how much time and resources you actually have. Okay, now that we have the hypothesis, it's time to build the campaign. The campaign is actually a set of activities that are all geared towards reaching the same goal or proving the hypothesis. So I have a few tips for how to create successful campaigns. One is to use your current channels. This is the Wordtune blog, if you currently have a blog, or a social media platform that is especially successful, or newsletter. You can use that channel, and it's much easier to create assets for something that you already have running. Second tip is to take the hypothesis you have and try to prove it in the best channel. Like, where is the target audience hanging out? And this is a whole complex topic, and I won't go into it right now, but you can use a tool like SparkToro, and you insert your industry or topic, and then it finds what channels are likely to have a conversation around it. And the third tip is to consider having one big asset. So this is what Drift did. For one of their campaigns, they created a physical book. This won't scale. And if you have this big asset, then all of the other campaign assets can help promote it, and it gives you more attention because you have one big thing that you are promoting. Okay, but it's still very hard to choose the marketing channels, and I know a lot of marketers struggle with this. So a good framework to think about this is the owned, paid, and earned media. So for your campaign, you're gonna need something that you own media. These are the blogs, the website, the social media platforms that you can control completely. Then you have paid media, which is the media you pay money for, like Google AdWords, social media ads. And finally, you also need earned media, which is the media you don't control. So word of mouth, people talking about your brand, PR articles, links, mentions on social media, shares, reviews, testimonials. These are all things you don't really control. Now, a movie that did this masterfully is actually Barbie. And this is a video by TLDR Business. I'll link to it. And it includes all of the activities that Barbie did for owned on social media, for paid with collaborations and selling actual Crocs, and earned with all of the virality around this campaign. And this actually generated over $1 billion in box office income for this movie. So again, the recommendation is to have this mix of owned, paid, and earned media, and you don't have to have a million channels for each one. This way, if you have all of the mix, you're creating a sort of flywheel effect to elevate your brand or product. Okay, now that we have our campaign, it's time to break it down to tasks. So the final step is to expand each campaign activity into tasks. For each activity, you can create a list and put them in a sort of Kanban task management system, which is a system where you move things from to do, to doing, to done. This way you manage the whole process and you don't have to manage it in your head. And you can actually use AI for this. So you upload all of your information about your campaign, and then You can ask it to generate the list of tasks and the deadlines and even the responsible professionals to take care of it. So this is what I did right here for our campaign, which is Human versus AI contest. You can see the different tasks: design contest webpage, prepare promotional content, and so on and so forth. For each task, you have a deadline and a responsible individual. And as the project progresses, you move the task to the right, and you can notice if someone is behind or if there's a bottleneck. All right. So let's see what we went through. We aligned with our company goal. We collected real information from our own internal sources. We formed a clear hypothesis. We examined possible campaigns to implement our strategy. And finally, we translated it all to a process using Kanban. And all of this adds up together to do something different, to make sure your marketing planning is iterative, that you actually test something out and you don't follow trends blindly. I hope this helps you and that you find it useful. So for me, Happy New Year and have a really fun year.